as the festival of Pride has come to a sudden general halt as police officers swarm everywhere, voicing rising in confusion and a lot of questioning a lot of events has happening as the organizing as Mr. Clan stood beside the police officer pointing the mysterious capture known as Captain Phantom has been the one who's been temporizing the festival and has stolen something quite important. And the police pretty much questions everyone, including Misty and Jasmine, but what they discover themselves after being questioned and after being informed from the police that it seems to be a map to a Pokemon that once lives deep underwater, but that one has been a mystery ever since the founders of the map, and nobody in the festival didn't took it seriously and just used it as some sort of weird attraction in the amusement park. Unfortunately, not taking that seriously has really hurt them as they have to forcibly have to close down everything, leaving Misty and Jasmine to their own device. But Misty could still remember Norman attacking the tentacle, even though he's supposed to stop him, but he did more damage than he should have, which made Misty quite angry. And she doesn't care if he's a gym leader or not. Hurting a water Pokemon is something that she would never cross. But unfortunately, Steven's still around in the meantime, as pointed out that Norman is a particular tough gym leader in the Hoenn region, and even he can't even deny that Norman is quite strong, and it took him a few tries to beat his slacking, and this is where Steven has to pretty much warn the two girls if they really want to seriously take out Norman, they need to seriously upgain the training in the Pokemon. And after Steven left, as Jasmine realizing that the where they finally landed not just a festival but also a town that she's known for quite some time now. It seems to be the Pewterburg, meaning that they're just nearby by the next town overboard, which leads to Roxborough, where Roxy, the first train that Miss ever battled, is just a few miles ahead. And Jasmine has an idea that both Misty and herself will greatly appreciate as they discuss that they should return back because Roxy might give some crucial training method on how a gym leader normally trains, and after Missy agrees to it, as both of them return back to Rossbrio Gym, where they finally meet Roxanne once again, and Roxanne being quite surprised by Misty and Jasmine's arrival, as she is happy to see her two students once again, but Misty quickly informs her without any hesitation need her guidance on some training that will allow her Pokemon to survive from Norman's slacking, and knowing what Misty is saying that Roxanne herself knows Norman herself because she even fought Norman a few times and she can definitely tell that slacking is no joke, as if those two are coming to her, that means as Roxanne doesn't have any issue on training, it's just if Miss and Jam are willing to go through it. And it seems the two girls doesn't hesitate as the two are beginning on Roxanne's special training. It's solely on endurance and defense, especially of her specialty. As Misty and Jasmine's Pokemon are beginning through Roxanne's training, and even though the Pokemon is feeling a bit too much and a bit overwhelmed by Roxanne's training, except for two Pokemon with Misty being Celia and Jasmine with Lara. Perhaps it's because it's their most experienced Pokemon, and to the point where they're actually liking the training because they feel like Misty and Jasmine are only getting the other Pokemon just to catch up on the strongest one, as Celia and Leon are being benefited greatly. But once Jasmine tries to train Onyx a bit, as Roxanne is quite interested on Onyx because she could, being a rock type specialist, she can instinctively tell this. Onyx seems to be quite strong, and kinda praises her student on this as Jasmine just simply grin while this one was pretty accidental. But once I stumbled upon it after being in the game, I could tell this thing is quite strong, so I couldn't ignore but capture it. As Roxanne wants to see this demonstration, as she suggests Jasmine and Misty to have a practice battle. As the two girls don't have any arguments, as Jasmine wants to prove her teacher with a new Pokemon, sending out Onyx while Misty is testing out Celio to do if the training is doing any benefits of her starter. And once the battle begins, as Roxanne can clearly see both trainers have greatly improved and pretty much overshadowed a few months ago of their former self if they were still around. And even though Jasmine is pretty much doing amazingly well against a water type, as Onyx is doing quite well with its defensive move and avoiding most of its majority water weaknesses. But Jasmine can clearly tell that Onyx has been hitting its limits and isn't sure why. And so Roxanne popped to Jasmine an idea that because she noticed Jasmine's majority of her Pokemon doesn't unifiedly share one typing, and Jasmine does know this, but she isn't going to use Fluffy the most of the because one, it does half the time it never listens to her, and two, she's not going to use Fluffy the whole time because she's most likely going to use Fluffy as a temporary Pokemon until she gets her own gym. But in the meantime, Fluffy is more or less just a third Pokemon on her slot to be a complete waste to her. But Roxanne quickly shuts Jasmine off because she doesn't want to hear her maturity because every Pokemon can be used by gym leaders, even if their typing isn't matching to the gym leader, because it doesn't matter because it's about putting a challenger to their limits, and if they could overcome, and maybe having electric typing on her rock gym could throw off some challengers who constantly tries to use a full water team if she decides to send out her electric type to counter them. And Jasmine isn't against that and isn't sure that Gym Leader is allowed to use Pokemon outside of that type, but it's actually quite because it is rare for gym leaders to do that, but the majority in Johto does use this. But Roxanne isn't trying to get this from her, but she's just suggesting that maybe Jasmine doesn't need to focus on being a rock type as and maybe trying to get Jasmine to find something much more deeper to find her very own way, as clearly Misty is gone home making a capturing any water type to become a water gym leader, while Jasmine isn't too sure what type of gym leader she wants to be. And Roxanne puts up the question if she is interested if she wants to get Onyx to evolve. And after for quite some time now, as Misty and Jasmine finally return to Petro Gym where they last meet Norman, as Norman has been trying to finally have a few days off to have his family time. But once Misty and Jasmine arrive, knowing too much, as being a gym leader doesn't want to shut down any challenges and greatly accepts them, as Misty is offers to desperately want to put down Norman and try Norman. As Misty waits upon Norman and sending out a powerful Zen boost, as Misty can notice that from the previous Pokemon that she saw with Slacking, Norman is a normal type specialist, as Misty knows that none of her Pokemon has any some sort of advantage or disadvantage, meaning Misty has a more of a freer option to choose any Pokemon, and wanting to try on the newest Pokemon, but which one, Chichino or Tentacle, but and wanting just to know the Zangoose is quite strong, so she knows for a fact Chichino isn't strong enough, but she knows for a fact the latest this capture is as she sends out tentacles to battle. And once the battle begins, as Norman commands for Zangoose to do a powerful crush claw, and Misty commands for Tentacle to counter with a water force, but Tentacle doesn't even move, it doesn't even listen, and this is what gets Misty to be quite scared a bit, because it seems like Tentacle isn't listening whatsoever, and just doing its own thing by attacking Zangoose viciously with a powerful poison jab, and doesn't even try to defend itself, as Misty desperately calls for Tentacle to dodge some attacks or try to do some defensive move, but Tentacle just simply ignores it, and Norman wants to take this opportunity, knowing years of his experience. No, he knows for a fact that Tentacle is not listening to Misty, and he's gonna take this opportunity to use Zangoose to finish off with a powerful access to trying to finish him off, but unexpectedly, Tentacle seems to wrap around Zangoose with its tentacle with a powerful wrap, as Zangoose is beginning to struggle from there, and unfortunately, Tentacle doesn't slow down as it launches a powerful poison jab multiple times, which this does knock out Zangoose to both trainers at the shop, as Norman recalls Zangoose and looks upon Tentacle once again, and he's not going to forget about this, as he remembers how strong it is, and even though Tengu doesn't listen to its strength, it doesn't lack any power behind its attack, having no other choice as it simply sent out Explode to battle, and Tentacle still not listening to Misty, as Explode just simply uses a powerful hyper voice to pretty much scream in the battlefield, forcing Misty and Tentacle to stop, as Tentacle desperately tries to endure the attack, but the power is simply too much from Explode, as this move just simply gets Tentacle a bit too much. It did try to use a one poison gem towards Explode, but Explode just simply endures the attack and continues with the hyper voice, as this simply knocks out Tentacle, as Misty simply returns her Pokemon back, and realizing she just after realizing that Misty is in a very tough situation, as Norman's Expo pretty much wiped the floor with Tentacle, and Misty will take care of Tentacle not listening to her, but right now she has a bad gym battle to win, as she isn't too sure if she could really should send out her new Pokemon, but for some reason she felt a bit lucky. Sending out Shin Shou as Chen Shao simply shouts out his name, but didn't expect to be in a battlefield, and after looking at Misty a bit worried, looking at its opponent a tough looking Explode, but Misty isn't too worried about it because she believes that Shin Shou should take out this Explode, and after feeling the confidence coming from its trainer, as Shin Shou is feeling a bit brave here and waiting for the battle to begin, as Norman commands for an Explode for a powerful, which unfortunately as Chinchino is taking the attack full force without any putting a guard up, as Chinchino is in the back foot immediately, and Misty could sense this and kinda regret sending out Chinchino here, but for some strange reason that Misty is feeling confident all of a sudden, as you just simply smart and commanding for a powerful confuse ray, as Cinchino managed to pull off the move, and right now Explode is completely confused as Norman tries to destroy to hurt Cinchino with a powerful break ray, but unfortunately this does lead for Explode to hurting itself pretty much greatly, as it just got hit by its own move, and this gives Misty and Chin Shao an opportunity while unleashing a powerful water gun, doing solid damage but not overwhelmed to the point where Explode is in serious damage. The Explode just simply shoots off that and continues on the offense with a powerful hyper voice, making sure that Chinchou doesn't try to get out of the way, as it unfortunately got hit by the huge move, and Messi could feel that just one movement and Chinchino would be knocked out, but as Norman commands for another hyper voice and unexpectedly once again, the confuser seems to hit in, as Expert seems to got too confused and just managed to hit himself, giving Chinchino for another opportunity with a powerful thunder shot. Thundershock, doing some moderate damage to Explode. Then and Explode begins to throw a bit of a tantrum, but not showing as he still listens to Norman to his best ability under the condition of confused rain. But unfortunately, this does led for Shinja to launch a powerful water gun and thunder shock combination that it seems like the water is conducting electricity to the point where the thunder shock seems to getting stronger each time it hits Explode, and Mrs. seems to notice that could be a nice trick, but in the meantime, as Nishina does a solid amount of damage to the point where Explode actually has to actually move out of the tackle way as he managed to knock Argentina with a powerful breakback, which unfortunately leads for Misty to rely on one more Pokemon left and not to convert which one who, until she realized that she's been trying to, because she did caught Pokemon, a few new Pokemons back to back and kind of and realizing that even though she knows they still are very tough Pokemon, realizing that she needs to train them so that the two could catch up most of the team, especially Shinjo, who seems to be lacking high in power, but luckily as Messi isn't too worried that she simply sends out Celio to battle. As Celio just simply waits for its trainer to call out the move, and once the battle begins, as Norman trying to end this as fast as possible, as commanding Flexplout to use a powerful Hyper Voice, but unfortunately the confusion seems to still linger on the Pokemon, and unfortunately managed to get hit from the move, leaving Celio to launch a powerful sub unguarded for Explode because of its confusion, leaving Celio to do massive damage to Explode, and knowing that Explode won't last for too long, as Norman has to rely on something a bit crazy, but he commands for Explode to use a break, but not just to Celio but towards the field. It seems like the attack does hurt Explode tremendously because it just struck from the ground, but it does leave Explode to not get to snap out of the confusion, allowing for Explode to come do a powerful Hyper Force on Celio without hesitation. But unfortunately, Norman is quite surprised that seeing as Celio seems to took an attack quite well, it seems like Celio is beginning to develop a very tanky Pokemon thanks to Misty's training, as she just commands for Celio to slam down on Explode with a powerful body slam, and once Celio pushes all of its way towards Explode, leaving Explode to be a knockout from the battle, leaving Norman with just one more Pokemon left. And this is where Misty feeling a bit dreadful as Norman sends out Slacking to battle, as Slacking seems to be impressed in the battlefield, leaving Celio to be a bit angry because he demands a bit some respect, but it seems like Slacking seems to ignore him until Norman commands for Slacking to command for a powerful Crush Claw, as Slacking just simply gets up, but extremely flashy goes towards Celio that Missy didn't see it coming, as Slacking slammed its huge arm doing some moderate damage towards Celio, but even though Misty know that it did a lot of, but she didn't expect for Celio to take that much damage, leaving Slacking to be a bit shooken from Slacking's powerful attacks, and this leads Misty to be a bit more absorbed from the battlefield, particularly as she commands for a powerful water pulse directly towards Slacking, and unexpected, she doesn't even believe it, but it seems like the Slacking just took the attack fully, and Messi expected for Slacking to do something about it, but it seems like it just took the damage completely until Norman commands for a powerful, launching a powerful throat chop, as I once again quickly scrambled towards Celio, but the some Celio managed to react fast enough to dodge out of the way and do a powerful body slam. But unfortunately, even though Celio it seems to be a large Pokemon, but it seems like it's unaffected by Slacking, who is clearly a much more larger Pokemon, as the body slam does little to no damage, as Slacking managed to launch the throat chop, managed to throat chop Celio's throat, and once Misty commands tries to do a powerful water pulse, but unfortunately the attack seems to be a lesser version of it. It's a launcher attack and it doesn't seem like it does that much, and Misty realizes that King's throat up that has severely damaged his throat vocal, meaning that Silo can't use any move that needed to conjure from its fortress one, aka its mouth, leaving Misty to just rely on its other moves, body slam, which does nothing much, and defense skill, but Messi could sense that it wouldn't do much against slacking, and she hasn't set up defense skill the whole match, even though she blames herself for not doing so. But she has one move left, but isn't sure if it's strong enough to take out slacking until she has a brilliant idea. As Silo desperately tries to move all the attack away, as slacking does a powerful hammer on, leaving Silo to launch a powerful icy wind direction towards slacking as it managed to chip in, doing some damage as Icicle Levy lands on its body, meaning Slack should be slightly behind, which should give Silo some slight advantage on speed control, but if it gets hit by one more move, then it's pretty much over until Misty commands for Silo to use Surf, but aim it towards the sky, as Silo just simply slaps its tail fin and the surf conjure up from the sky. Unfortunately, the water has to go somewhere, and thanks to the momentum, giving Celio some power with the surf, which managed to do some massive damage towards Slacking. And unexpectedly, this does seems to do major damage to the point where Norman didn't expect for Slacking to be defeated, leaving Missy to be quite surprised, but she still believes that Celio is getting much stronger every battle and slowly becoming one of her strongest Pokemon outside